Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Skipbound, and this is the 52 must-see movies and why they matter. And this is a special two-part episode on Steven Spielberg movies. This is the first one of two that I'm going to be doing in this series. And with me this evening is Ryan Permison. Ryan, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very much looking forward to talking about this Spielberg classic, if you will.
Absolutely. I was 7 years old when this movie came out. I don't know if that tells you how old I really am today, but yeah, so we're going to be talking about Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of the films that really got Harrison Ford's career off and running. And with that is, I'm going to talk a little bit about the cast. Of course, Harrison Ford plays Indiana Jones, or Henry Jones Jr., as some might know him as. Also, Karen Allen plays Marion Ravenwood, and we have Alfred Molina in a cameo role way before people remember who Alfred Molina is, but he's in Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. I got Denol Elliott is he kind of plays a German guy. Also, one of Harrison Ford's friends in the film is played by John Rhys Davies. He plays Sala. And then Paul Freeman plays Brody, Dr. Brody. That's another friend of Harrison Ford's in the film. And we have Wolf Kahler. Wolf Kahler is a German guy in the film. And Frank Marshall is the producer of the film, but he has a cameo role as the pilot. At the beginning of the film, there's a pilot, and that is the producer, Frank Marshall. And obviously, the film is directed by Steven Spielberg, and the score is by John Williams, one of the most iconic scores in the history of movies, the score for Indiana Jones. So what do you have to say about any of these people, these actors, or do you have any other actors you'd like to bring up, or producer or director?
No, you pretty much rounded off the list. Pretty much very well. Obviously, Harrison Ford and was it John Rhys Davies? Sala. Denholm Elliott is Indy's friend in this case. Marcus Brody. Paul Freeman actually plays Belloc, the person who's going after the Ark of the Covenant. He's Indy's, antagonist, if you will, within the film. So yeah, it's a very good casting list. I had no idea who these actors were until I saw this film when I was much younger. I knew Harrison Ford from Star Wars, but this was another character that he portrayed. It's one of the most iconic characters he's ever portrayed in the history of cinema. So it's a well-rounded cast for this film.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it really has a great group of character actors that really, each one of them have their own little thing about them that make them stand out in their specific roles of the film. And that's what's neat about a movie like this, because you think, well, it's the main stars is Indiana Jones, but he really does have a really good Steven Spielberg did round up a great supporting cast. All right, so we're going to get into the movie. And, I have a lot of, I keep my notes. And so the movie starts out in a jungle. And Indy enters a tomb because he's looking for a tomb. And then Alfred Molina is in the tomb, and he's got spiders all over his back. And then there's these spears. And, there's a lot. Indy figures something is going on. And there's a pit. They have to jump over a pit. And then he notices these blocks. These blocks kind of look fishy. And, of course, they are fishy because there's darts. There's darts that end up coming out of the walls if you step on the wrong block. And then he gets to an idol, and he takes a bag of sand out of his pouch on his belt, and he puts the bag of sand in place of the idol. So he thinks, okay, cool. We got the idol, and then all hell starts breaking loose. The tomb starts falling apart. Then there's a door, and he's going to try to find his way to get underneath the door. And then, of course, the famous scene, which they used to have a ride at Universal, where they have a whole thing where you go into the thing and you'd see a guy basically reenacting this scene of the rolling ball, that's trying to crush him. And of course, at the beginning of the film, we end up seeing a bunch of natives or aborigines, and we get a thorn in Indy's side that continues to be a thorn in Indy's side throughout the whole movie, and that is Belloc. Belloc basically said, "Hey, give me the idol," and he's got all these natives around him with bow and arrows and whatnot. So discuss. Give me your thoughts on all that stuff at the beginning of the film, because this movie doesn't mess around. It gets you right into the movie right away.
Yes, it most certainly does. I rewatched this film a few weeks ago in preparation for this, and watching that scene, going through the jungle, going through the booby traps, and getting the idol, and having to give it up to Belrock, and just the thing that really caught me was as soon as he brings out the whip, gets that gun away from the guy who's about to kill him, and then you see his face, and the man with the hat just comes out. It's like, oh, this guy is serious. He knows his stuff. And the very end of it, when he is surrounded by the natives, and Balrog is like, there's nothing that you have, and I cannot possess. It's like very good stuff, man. I see where this is going. It's like a cat and mouse game. Who has the upper hand? Who's got the backing behind him? So it's a great way to introduce a character, and it's a great way to introduce the audience to this ride that they are about to go on.
Yeah, it really is a ride. Of course, then the natives, he ends up getting away, and the natives start chasing him, and he starts telling the plane, start the plane, and that's the pilot's name is Jacques. And I mentioned at the beginning, Jacques, the pilot, is actually the producer, Frank Marshall. And then the plane gets away, but Indy's in the cockpit, and there's a snake in there, and the snake is named Reggie, and he hates snakes, as we will come to know later in the film. But this is the first scene where we get him in. I hate snakes. Oh man, so it's like he can't win for lose. He gets away, but then he's got a snake in his cockpit.
Yeah, it's great. It really is. It's a funny way to end. He's like, I hate snakes, Jacques. I hate them. Oh, show some backbone, will you? It's like, oh, jeez. It's good stuff. It's a good way to kick off a film respectively.
Yeah, it really is. Then, of course, he's back in the classroom, and there's a girl, a student in the classroom, and on her eyelids is I love you, and she's one of his students, and he ends up getting interrupted. His class the bell rings, and he gets interrupted because Marcus Brody comes in, and he says, "Hey, there's some men from the government that want to talk to you about something." And what that is they have the lost tomb of the Ark of the Covenant, and it's in Cairo, and it's in this place called Tanis, which is completely covered by sand, and they have to find the Well of Souls, and they use this staff with this medallion, and then the medallion sees through the sun, and the sun tells them where the Ark of the Covenant is. But he has to talk to the government guys first, and that's the thing that is interesting, because he's basically like, I want this job. He's telling Brody, I want this job. Did I get the job? Did I get the job?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's a good setup. Lets the audience know, hey, there's a little bit of history behind this, and he has to go after it and figure out what comes next, how he's going to get his hands on it, and so on and so forth, and following the clues in order to get to the Ark of the Covenant, because it's a big deal. It's a big treasure, and it's a big opportunity, or so they think.
Yeah, yeah. And then we go to Nepal, because Indy basically gets the job, and I love it how they have a plane, and then there's a line, and it says going from here to there or whatever. And that really tells you, you don't have to make a big deal about the traveling and how they get there. You know, they were on a plane and they go from wherever he is, I think New Jersey or something. He's in Princeton, right? So he goes to Nepal. And in Nepal, the first thing we see is Marion Ravenwood by Karen Allen, and she's in a drinking contest with a big woman, and she's trying to outdrink this woman. And it's like, this is the first time you see Marion Ravenwood. You're like, really? This is like the damsel in distress, the lady character of the movie, which in some of the other Indiana Jones movies, people aren't necessarily don't like the female lead in the movie, but this is one that a lot of folks tend to gravitate more as Karen Allen's character in this, because she kind of has like a fight to her. She has like a little where she can defend herself and do things. She's not just like a damsel in distress.
Yeah, she has an energy about her, and she carries herself pretty well. I mean, drinking a guy under the table is, it's no easy feat, no matter who you are or where you are, what location you're standing or sitting in this case. So it's a pretty good character introduction. And Marion Ravenwood, she may look like, in the beginning you may think, or in some ways you may think she's a damsel in distress, but she is far from it. She can keep up with pretty much anybody or any character within the film at that point.
Absolutely. I mean, she is someone to be respected because of what she did. She drinks this person, this big woman under the table. And these aren't just whatever having some beers. They look like there's some really strong looking whiskey or some kind of alcohol. And it's in Nepal. It's in the mountains of Nepal. There's not a whole lot going on. So, drinking is probably a sport up there.
Yeah, you gotta have something to pass the time, as it were.
Yeah. So then Indy shows up and he's like, hey, I'll give you $3,000. I need this medallion. Could we make a deal? And she's like, well, you know what? Come back tomorrow. Because she's like, slaps him in the face. First of all, she slaps him in the face and punches him in the face, and then says, I'll come back tomorrow, because I guess he left. I guess she was just a child, because he's friends with her father, Professor Ravenwood or whatever, and she was smitten with him. Let's say she was smitten with him. I know we don't use that word smitten that often, but we're going to use that word smitten. But so she said, come back. And of course, soon as Indy leaves, who comes in but Major Arnold Ernst Todt. Now this guy is up there with some of the best villains in the history of all. This guy is a mean character, but he's with the SS. He's a Nazi because how he's dressed. He's in black and he's got his jacket on, and it's like, hey, give me the medallion. I want the medallion. Of course, she makes a big deal about it, starts a fire, and then there's all kinds of stuff going on. Then Indy comes back to help her out, and they, guys with guns and all kinds of craziness is going on. And Todt finds the medallion, but he burns his hand. He burns the medallion into his hand. Ryan, to me, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was. It's a bit of a chaotic scene, especially when you got flames and fire all around you within that small bar building at that time. So yeah, you got to like run for cover, dodge bullets, dodge anything you can, so you don't get caught in the crossfire, as it were. So it was an interesting action scene. When he burns his hand, it's like, oh boy, that's it's not gonna look good in the morning. But it's a pretty good action scene, and plus, Indy comes away with Marion kind of helping him out towards the end of the scene, and then he has that Indy smile on his face with the fedora, and it's like, yeah, this guy's a cool cat. So I like it. It's good stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You knew the two of them were going to get together. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of time with how it was going to happen, but it was a great beginning. Now we do the same thing. What we did when we went to Nepal, we go to Cairo. That's the main place where we're going to have a lot of the film take place. And we meet Indy's buddy, Sallah, played by John Rhys Davies. And he starts talking to him about the different people that are involved, the Nazis, and where they're digging and all this kinds of stuff. And then we find there's a monkey. And the monkey is not necessarily the nicest monkey. He's a thief. and he starts out this little bit of an adventure in Cairo because he's trying to steal the medallion. And of course, another famous scene in this film is when Indy runs up against this giant guy and he's got a sword. But now, you thinking he's going to fight him with a sword? No, he just pulls out his gun and shoots him right in the head. And he falls over. I mean, it's one of the iconic scenes in this movie. It's like, it tells you how smart Indy is. That he's not necessarily going to fall into some kind of trap of fighting this guy, because he ends up fighting some other guys, but he doesn't fight this guy. He's not going to get into that sword fight with that guy. He shoots him right in the head. And then there's a car that blows up, and that Marion, we don't know, but we think Marion might be dead. Indy believes that Marion could be dead, and then the guy that owns the monkey comes in and he poisons the dates. And we also, at this point in the movie, we're introduced to our old buddy Belloc and Dietrich, the Nazi who's in charge of this whole giant dig in Cairo to try to find the Ark of the Covenant and where it's located and all that stuff. Then, of course, the bad dates, and Salah's in there, and the monkey eats one of the dates, and the monkey dies, and then Indy's about to eat the date, and Salah captures the date, and he says, "Bad dates."
Yeah, that was a good quick grab there. And then just stepping back just a bit, the scene in the street where he goes up against the guy with the sword and just shoots him. That scene in a way was partially improv because Harrison Ford wasn't feeling well that day. He was really struggling to catch his breath and keep going on with the shoot. So he's like, I'm just gonna shoot this guy, and he does it. And it's, to me, rewatching this movie most recently, that's my favorite scene in the whole movie, is him just pulling out his guns like, I don't have time for this. Just go. It was, I was a little bit laughing, but I was also smiling at the end of that scene. I was like, that's the best scene, because he handles it like a boss. He just, granted, that's how we speak in today's terminology, but in yesteryears it would have been like, that's a great action scene. So that to me is my favorite part of the film. But yeah, the adventure itself is definitely worth going on.
Yeah, that whole thing was just kind of like craziness. But that's the movie, and you get that iconic score from John Williams, and it pops up at the best times. That's one of the best things about the movie. That score always pops up at the right time. That Indiana Jones score and that song that you only attribute to Indiana Jones. I mean, when you hear it throughout whatever reason or wherever you might be or whatever, that score is Indy. It's so unmistakable. And then, of course, we find out where the Nazis are digging, and wouldn't you know it, they're digging in the wrong spot. And we find the Nazi camp, and then Indy ends up finding Marion. She's not dead. She's a captive of the Nazis. And but the thing is, he realizes that if he takes her and they find she's missing, they're going to be looking all over the place, and he can't have them looking for him, because he has an idea, because he's got the medallion. He has an idea where the tomb is, because he goes into a special tent with a hole in the tent, which leads to a different area. Then he was able to do the measurements and moving around of the staff and the medallion, and he finds out where the actual dig spot is for the Ark of the Covenant.
Yep. It's following the clues, seeing what's going on. And during that scene, and pretty much almost every scene within this film, we keep bringing up the John Williams score, and it's a very valid point, because the score by John Williams is so, when you hear certain themes in the movie, and I'm not just speaking about the Raiders March, the main theme of Indiana Jones, if you will. I'm talking about just the rest of the score. It's eerie, it's mysterious. It gives you the vibe of, what are we getting into? Are we going to like what we find? Are we going to be in danger? Are we going to come into harm's way? That score, it's so scary and eerie, but it works because the Ark of the Covenant, at least in this form on a film, has never been explored like this before. So it's new and exciting territory to venture into.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we end up finding the tomb, and the guys are digging around on the spot, and they, it's kind of a little ways from the Nazi camp. It's not like on top of the Nazi, but it's a little ways. You could see the Nazi camp from where they're digging, and it's on like a plateau. It's up a little bit and a little bit away from where the Nazis are, and they end up digging around. They find the top of the tomb, and they move the tomb, and wouldn't you know it, Indy goes down in there, and he sees snakes. Why does it have to be snakes? What another great quote. There's so many great quotes in this, but I made a point to write this one down in my notes. Is it's just such a good. Why does it have to be snakes? Because it's a throwback to the scene with the plane, with Reggie the snake in the plane cockpit, and then also why they're doing that, why they're in the tomb finding the Ark of the Covenant, we go back to Marion, and Marion's being like wined and dined by Belloc, and he gets her a dress, but when she sees the dress, she's like, all right, what the hell, I'll wear the dress, maybe this is my way, I can figure a way out of it, and she hides her clothes on top of a knife, and she try, and so then once she drinking and having a good time with Belloc, then she's like, I got you. She pulls out the knife and starts trying to escape. And needless to say, our Nazis back, and she can't get away. And they walk out of their tent, and what do they see? They see Indy and the guys pulling the Ark of the Covenant out of the tomb. John Rhys Davies, Sallah gets out, but Indy's stuck down in the tomb. He didn't get out. They throw the whip back down in there, and then they throw Marion down in the tomb with them.
Yep, not the best spot you want to be in, but the heroes are stuck in a tight spot. Now they just got to find a way out.
Yeah, and that's, of course, Indy, like he always does, he looks at things, he observes things, and he sees these snakes coming out of the wall. And he thinks, why are those snakes coming out of the wall? So he jumps on a gigantic obelisk while Marion's fighting off the snakes with a torch, but the torch is going out. So the obelisk falls over, crashes into the wall, and he makes a giant hole in the wall. And then they go through there, but Marion runs into a bunch of skeletons, and they've got cobwebs everywhere. She's all freaking out, Ed. But Indy, of course, saves her, and they see some light at the end of the tunnel. And I know that's a cliche, but there's some light at the end of the tunnel here, Ryan. And they go through, and they say, oh, okay, it's right in the camp of the Nazis where they were digging. Somehow the tunnel led to that spot, and they push a brick out, and they get out. They get out of the tough spot that they're in. And so then, yeah, you got anything to say about that?
No, it's all good here.
Okay, just so then they notice that they're going to take the Ark of the Covenant, and put it on a plane. And so Indy goes down, and he tries to disable the plane by beating up the guys that are riding the plane. And another throwback to the big guy with the knife. Well, we got a big Nazi who's like, oh, you know what? I'm in a mood for a fight right now. Indy's fighting a little guy, and then the big guy comes out. And this guy is not a little guy at all. I mean, he's putting it on Indy, this big German guy. And he looks like he could beat the crap out of anybody. And Marion runs down. She tries to help. The plane starts moving. She gets stuck in the cockpit, and Indy is fighting these guys. But this is a little ways off from where Belloc and Heinrich and all those guys are. So they don't see anything until they see an explosion. You see a giant explosion. And what ended up happening is the German, while Indy fights him, gets his head caught in the propeller, and blood splatters everywhere. And while the plane was spinning around, it clipped the top of a gas truck. So all this gas was dripping and draining down towards the plane. And when the plane explodes, the gas truss explodes, everything blows up. I mean, it causes a huge disaster. And then they say, all right, put the Ark of the Covenant on the truck.
Yeah, they gotta think quickly. Once the plane's out, you got to come up with a plan B and see what you can do about it. And they do their best to put it on that truck, and then things just are made up on the spot from there. Because as we all know, before Indy leaves the camp, Sallah says, or he says, or Indy rather, excuse me, he says, I'm going after that truck. And Sallah asked him, how? I don't know. I'm making this up as I go. So it's another one of the iconic lines from the film, because Spielberg in a way was mapping out that chase as it was going on. So it was a heck of a scene, no question about it. It's very, in a way, it's a bit fast paced, and it's one thrill in a way after another. So I mean, action adventure really describes this film perfectly.
Absolutely. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. I had it right here in my notes, Ryan. Good job on that. And of course, once again, I have to bring it up. The Indy score comes up again, because this is why we love the score. This whole sequence of events is really some of the stuff that really makes that score just pop off the screen and pop up when you're listening to the movie. And some of the things that happen during this car chase is the car gets knocked off a cliff, and then Indy is hanging on for dear life on this truck. This guy kicks him out the window. He goes up the front of the truck. He's hanging on the truck, and they're firing from the other car. Heinrich and Belloc and those guys are in a different car, and they're firing it. So he's trying to escape. So he crawls. You want to talk about a resembling scene? This is I think it's a Western way back when. I can't think of the Western, but where they go underneath the horses on the carriage, and they go back around the back of the carriage. Well, Indy does it very similar to that, where he goes around the bottom of the truck and crawls back through the other side of the truck and comes back and knocks the guy out the window through the front. Of course, he doesn't do what Indy does. No, the bad guys aren't going to do that. Only the good guys are going to save themselves and keep the movie going. We want to see them bad guys, them Nazis, die, you know. But and so he ends up getting the truck and taking off after that crazy scene.
Yep, trying to get it to the safest place possible. Yep.
Yeah, and so they end up. Sallah has a friend, you know, and I'm going to use the term friend very loosely here, because a lot of times in these movies there's some backstabbing and guys that are nobody is anybody's friend for very long, not you know. So Captain Katanga. We got Mr. Katanga is his name, and he has a boat, and he offers to take the Ark back to wherever Indy wants to go with it. You know, then there's really the first and only scene of Indy and Marion Ravenwood where they're having a moment of kind of romance or a tender moment with each other. You see how beat up Indy is, and she's touching his body, and he's, oh, don't touch me there, don't touch me. Or, well, where can I touch you? Oh, you can touch me here, you can touch me there, and then just like a man, Ryan, he falls asleep.
Yeah, he had a long day at the office, so he definitely deserved some rest, if you will.
Yeah, this is so funny that he ends up falling asleep right when she's about to touch him, and they were about to get it on there, you know. And like I said, though, Captain Katanga, it's all about the money. It's all about what you can do for me, and he basically sells them out to the Nazis, who, wouldn't you know, have a sub and the sub comes after the boat, and Captain Container says, I can make some money off the girl. I need the girl. I don't know where Jones is, but I need the girl. And they're like, you're lucky you're still alive. You don't make demands. Give us the girl. And then of course Indy is lost within the ship because they don't know where he is, but he finds his way to the sub where the Nazis are by swimming over, jumping off the ship, swimming over. You see him hanging off the side of the sub. And the sub goes to this island. It goes to this island, and the island is, I guess, the place where they're going to test the Ark of the Covenant to make sure it's working. They don't want to take it to Adolf Hitler and then something happens and it has a malfunction or whatever you want to call it. So like, oh, we're going to test it here. We're going to get it in the right light. We're going to do everything, make sure we do the ritual the right way to make sure everything's on the up and up with the Ark of the Covenant.
Yep. Yeah, definitely a risk they don't want to necessarily take if it's sitting in front of Adolf Hitler's house or his wherever he is at the time. And yeah, they have to take a bit of a risk and say, let's see what happens with this before we deliver it to the one we were promised it to.
That's right, and he's collecting everything. We all know from other movies how he was taking all kinds of riches and paintings and everything he could get his hands on. He had people all over the world doing this kind of thing. And Indy catches up to them, and he's got a rocket launcher, and he's like threatening them, hey, I don't care. You could take the Ark of the Covenant. I just want the girl. And Belloc calls his bluff because he basically says, here you go. Blow it up. I know you won't do it because I know you're just like me. You're all about these antiquities. You're all about the history. You won't do it. So I know you're bluffing. But here you go. Go ahead. And next scene is him and Marion Ravenwood are tied up on a pole. And these guys are going through the ritual that they need to go through to try and see if the Ark of the Covenant works. And Indy yells to Marion, shut your eyes. Don't look while they're doing the ritual. And there's all kinds of stuff coming out of the Ark of the Covenant, smoke and souls and ghosts, or I don't know what, lightning. And would you know it, the lightning strikes all of the Nazis, and every single one of them die. All the Nazis die. You see their faces melting, blood, pieces of teeth, and everything falling off their faces. And Marion and Indy are still alive on that pole because they didn't look. I don't know. Maybe it was because it wasn't meant to be. Maybe it wasn't meant to be open. What are your thoughts on that, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm still a little curious as to. I'm pretty sure Indy says to Marion, "Don't look at it," like right before they open it, or they try to dig through it and find out what's at the bottom of the tomb. I'm not sure why Indy thought that, or how he thought, or how he predicted that. Hey, something really bad's going to happen. We better not look at it, otherwise we risk ourselves being, killed off in a way. It's almost like he had maybe a sixth sense about it. I'm not quite sure. I'm still trying to wrestle with that a bit in my mind. But other than that, it's a heck of a scene, and melting faces is not something you want to see before you're going to sleep at night, because you're going to be thinking about that long after you see the film. Because it's like, it's creepy. Even for that time, it's really, really creepy with the way they set it up, the way they put it together. It's well shot, it's well executed, and all that good stuff, because Spielberg had a lot, he had a crack team behind him, and they put it together really well. And hey, you open treasures that shouldn't be opened, bad things are going to happen to you. You're going to have to face some consequences, or in this case, your face gets melted off, so you can't really face those consequences. I know, bad pun. But so yeah, it was a heck of an ending. It was good. It was scary, but it was like, hey, when you find treasure, don't really open anything, because if you open something, it's basically going into another legend, which is if you open Pandora's box, bad things happen.
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head right there. And so the towards the end of the film, we get the government guys back again, and Indy's like, "Where's the thing? We need to study it and this and that. Don't worry, we got our top men on it, and it's in a safe place, and it ends up being in a warehouse full of other crates of stuff that we don't know where the warehouse is. We don't know what else is in those crates. We just know the Ark of the Covenant is in there, and there is a lot of crates in that warehouse, wherever the hell that is. And then the movie ends with Marion Ravenwood and Indy walking down the steps, and they basically talk. Hey, you want to go get a drink? They hold hands, and that's how the movie ends. One of the question that I always ask on this show is, because this show is influenced by a book called The 52 Must-See Movies and Why They Matter by Robert Osborne, and he created 52 movies and I went through all of season 1, doing every single movie in the book, and then season 2 is going off the book, Ryan. But the question that we always ask is, those films are known as the essentials. So why, in your opinion, is Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark so essential for you and I and people to watch this episode and to discuss and to really care and love this film?
Wow, it's a big question, but I'm going to do my very best to answer it. I'll give you that one. For this film, particularly Raiders of the Lost Ark, if you are a film fan or an action-adventure fan of any kind, if you will, and you're looking to start, where should I start? What is one of the first action-adventure films that really set the standard, set the stage for this kind of genre, for this kind of adventure and mythology and all that good stuff? Where should I start? There really is no better place to start than with the action hero that, in a way, started it all, and that's Indiana Jones. And with this one particularly, it should be Raiders of the Lost Ark. It is the first one within the franchise in itself. It's one of Spielberg's, to me, it's one of his really, really good films. It's one of his better films. It's something that really took you on a ride. And I think going off with John Williams, I can't emphasize this enough. John Williams is without a doubt the most influential, if not the best composer of film scores, soundtracks, all that good stuff, however you want to go about it, in the world today. He is the Mac Daddy of them all. And when you listen to John Williams and you hear it, and when you think of Indiana Jones and you hear the John Williams theme, you think of Indiana Jones. When you hear, some themes are so recognizable, they are tattooed on people's brains to the point where if they even hear a few notes, not even the whole song, if you will, but a few notes, you know what you're getting into, and you know what character or what film franchise it's referencing. And to me, Raiders of the Lost Ark is a great place to start if you want to get into the action-adventure genre, if you want to know about history and mythology and just go on an incredible journey and a wild ride. There's really no better place to start than one of the roles that made Harrison Ford famous, and that would be Indiana Jones, and in this case, it would be Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. You said a mouthful there. And, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg were a fan of, if you look at George Lucas, Star Wars, what he took to make Star Wars, he saw some of these like Buck Rogers serials and stuff. Well, he also looked at some of these serials that were these adventure kind of serials back in the day that they used to do. And he said, oh, I want to do something. And of course, Steven Spielberg was like right along for the ride. Yeah, that'd be awesome, and they really created the iconic action hero. Yeah, do we have the Rambos? Sure we do. Do we have the Terminators and all these other things? But Rambo is in its own world in a different kind of action adventure. It's more like a military type of, and Terminator is kind of like a science fiction type of thing. But there really wasn't. They try to copy Indy with the Buckaroo Banzais and the things like that later on, but they could never capture the magic that George Lucas and Harrison Ford and Steven Spielberg captured with Indiana Jones. And that's why I believe this is such an essential film. And, obviously we've made 3 sequels and there's another 4th and possibly a 5th on the way. and now they're talking about a possibility of rebooting it with another actor. And I'll be honest with you, if they do reboot it, I can't think of anybody else besides Chris Pratt that to me would be a perfect Indiana Jones. What do you think about that?
I'm okay with them rebooting the Indiana Jones franchise because, as we all know, we're not going to stay young forever. Actors can't play the same role forever, and actors shouldn't be known for just one role. They need to do a wide array of films. They should do a wide array of characters so they can build up their resume, build up their legacy that they want to leave, and leave their imprint on Hollywood and with the audience itself. So if you're going to reboot it, I'm fine with that. As far as the Chris Pratt situation, I'm not really a big Chris Pratt fan. He really doesn't do it for me. I don't think he has any. I mean, he has the comedic chops to pull this off because Indy isn't a comedian per se, but he does have some zingers and a few one-liners thrown into the mix for good measure because you need levity in whatever kind of film you're in, at least for the most part. And granted, it's not always up to us. It's up to the director and what kind of story they want to tell and how they want to go about it, respectively. Chris Pratt, I would not put him anywhere near Indiana Jones because I think he's a really big name right now, and I get that. But for acting purposes and for starting fresh for Indiana Jones, I say you cast an unknown, so you don't put any unnecessary pressure on that particular actor to live up to the standard that Harrison Ford set. Now, do I have any names off the top of my head? I really can't think of any at this point, but I can tell you, start fresh, start with a brand new actor, start with somebody who may have had a few films under their belt, but not too many to the point where they're a household name. Because Indiana Jones can really make you or it can break you, depending on how the film is received critically, by the moviegoers and by the box office receipts, because, Hollywood's a business. It's about making money. If you want to bank it on Chris Pratt, have at it. I just may or may not be there opening weekend. I'm just saying here, Hollywood. But hey, I'm in a minority that is not a big Chris Pratt fan. I know Chris Pratt has legions of fans, and that's all well and good, Star-Lord. But I would say cast an unknown or cast somebody who's got a few things under their belt and is ready to go to the next stage of their career. Give them an opportunity. I would love to see a brand new face as Indiana Jones. I'd be all for it. I would like to see them put their own spin on the character, how they go about solving mysteries, and how it's all about finding this treasure and whether or not it's safe to bring back home or not, if it has any supernatural elements or whatever. Just make a good action-adventure movie with a brand new actor playing this character, and I'll be all set. But we'll leave that up to Hollywood and the powers that be. Can't wait to find out who they're going to pick to replace Harrison Ford, which is going to be a tall order within itself to do in the future.
Absolutely, it is. And they want to make Indiana Jones the American version of James Bond, where they keep recasting it every so many years. And really quick, we don't have, I don't want to go into this. Two names I'm going to throw out, and you just give me your opinions. Bradley Cooper and a guy that has already played a character Harrison Ford played, Alden Ehrenreich. What do you think about those two?
Well, I did finally get around to seeing the movie Solo, and I thought Alden Ehrenreich did a good job for what he was given, but the film itself just didn't really work for me, and Solo, Alden Ehrenreich was fine, but he's not going to walk away with winning a gold medal. Let's just put it that way. Between the two, I would say Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper's got not just the comedic chops, but he can like act like real serious hardcore acting. Like he can be very dramatic, he could be vulnerable, he could be fun, he could be adventurous, he could be all these different emotions rolled into one. So between those two choices, if I were to sign on the dotted line and mark and cast a certain actor to play this role, Bradley Cooper 100% would have my vote because I like his resume. I like what he's done both inside and outside of comedy. He can pull it off. So my vote for right now, at least with these candidates that have been presented to us, I'm going to go with Bradley Cooper.
All right, well, Ryan, I appreciate you coming on. I know you came to me and you wanted to do one of these episodes, and I was glad you chose Indiana Jones because we hadn't gotten to it yet, and it was the one I really wanted to discuss, and I was glad you really had a lot to say about it, so I really appreciate you coming on the 52 Must-See Movies and Why They Matter. Where can you be found?
Yes, sir. You can find me on Facebook at Ryan Permison. That's RyanPermison, or on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. And I'm also going to be a part of different movie trivia leagues. You can find me there on Multiplex Entertainment or the Worldwide Movie Games. And also doing a new set of videos with a crack team of mine. We are called Nerd Culture. You can find us on YouTube at Nerd Culture. Our logo is a blue circle with the letters NC. and white lettering in the center of it. And you can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at It's Nerd Culture. We do movie reviews, talk about TV shows, comic books, video games, how to draw certain characters, all that good stuff. Anything nerdy we talk about, you can find us there. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you reached out to me, and you can find me at Dan Skipbound on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest, or at From the Fourth Row. Or if you want to read my movie reviews, you can go to cinesportstalk.com. That's CINESPORTSTALK, cinesportstalk.com. And just like Ryan said, I am the head question writer for the Sports League on Multiplex Entertainment. So I will be hosting matches and being involved with Multiplex Entertainment via the Sports League very, very soon. So for Ryan and myself, good night.